Although this may seem very obvious, I wanted to quickly go over the steps involved in writing tests and assertions. Now, regardless the response format, you will need to do the following 2 steps. The first step is to parse the response body so that you can get a JavaScript object you can work with. And the second part is obviously to write a test using the information that you parsed in the previous step. Now, since I mentioned parsing the response body, let's get a better understanding on what this means. And I listed here a couple of possible response types. So most commonly you will work with JSON objects, and these are extremely easy to parse and work with. And for that you already have a built-in function in Postman, which is the pm.response.json, which will convert the response body from text in a JSON object you can easily work with and make assertions. Now, also commonly you may encounter XML files. And again, there's a possibility, there's a built-in function in Postman which allows you to parse that XML file into a JSON object. And this can be accomplished with the XML to JSON function. And again, it will give you a JavaScript object where you will find the information, have the representation of the XML object, but in JSON. And again, it will be pretty easy to do assertions. Now, things get a bit more complicated if you're working with HTML. In case you are dealing with HTML and you need to extract some specific information from it, the first step is first to get the contents. And you can get the contents of the response by using pm.response.text. And then there's a built-in library in Postman called Cheerio. And if you've worked with jQuery in the past, Cheerio is pretty similar to jQuery, which allows you to do, it easily allows you to work with a response body with a DOM of the response body and to fetch some information from that. Next comes the plain text, and this can be seen in 2 ways. When you just have a plain text document, you cannot do any additional parsing on it if it doesn't have a specific format. So it's just simple text. Then you'll just have to grab that information and you will get a string. And on that string, we can do different things like searching for a substring or similar things. This is not the ideal case, but if the response body is kind of small, probably it's not going to be a huge problem to work with that. Now, last and not least, if your response is in the comma-separated value CSV format, again, there's a built-in library which allows you to parse this response. So it's important to think in advance, okay, what kind of a response do I have and how do I get to that information? How do I get to the part where I want to make the assertions? And I listed here these examples. Of course, there can be other examples as well. And if you don't know how to handle them, just post a question and I will get back to you on a possible scenario on how you can handle those formats. Now, as I said, JSON is probably the most common and most of you will not have to deal with any other formats. And in that case, it's just as simple as calling pm.response.json to parse the response body, and then you can just start writing tests.